everyone to go off video at this point of time, and maybe we'll come back.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining to the NHRD monthly meet. So we have a very interesting panel put together to reimagine the future of work and will the business be ever same before? So as we get into that, so we also wanted to share as the outgoing committees. So this will be the last monthly meet. I request Smita, who has been the president of the EC, which is for the outgoing EC, to share on behalf of the EC team the journey of 2 years with all of you. Over to you, Smita.
Thank you so much, Prakriti. Can we have the slides, please? So this has been really a very interesting month, the month of July. We had our AGM this time. It was virtual. Thank you. So many of you participated enthusiastically. We also had the elections this month, and again virtual. And a big thanks to everybody for being patient with us and for joining us on that whole journey. And then we have earlier today also shared, earlier this month, shared the circular with the names of the new EC members. We will have a moment to also introduce them and get to know them a little bit. To begin with, I wanted to just thank all of you for your support during the last couple of years. It's been very interesting. I think the big highlight has been that we went into the pandemic and had to pivot very quickly from a virtual format to a digital format. And what I'm very happy to let all of you all know is that we did not miss even a single monthly meet or even a single program. Nothing has got cancelled. Everything happened. We just changed the format. We just moved from the virtual format to a digital format. We altered it a little bit. We took it as an opportunity to reach out beyond our usual set of attendees, and we saw, interestingly, lots and lots of people attending our programs. We had several programs during this time. Of course, the big one was that the showcase itself became virtual, and it was one of the earliest large-scale events which went virtual. And we had fantastic footfall. As you can see, we doubled it. We also did our leadership meetings. They continued right throughout the period of time. Not a single month did we miss. Interestingly, we had the certification programs this time, 7 of them, and with very strong participation. And the other one, which was perhaps really exciting, was the student program. So we did a number of them. Close to 1,000 students participated. We have also done interactions with faculty, and it's been really well received by everybody. Thank you. Next slide, Nikita. Prakriti, you're handling the slides? Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we took advantage of what we were, the situation we were in, and the opportunity it presented us, therefore, is we actually used the social media and the various digital formats as much as we could. We had several webinars, several social interactions, round tables, lives, fire chats, fireside chats. You are aware of it. It was these were new things which we haven't done before, where we were going live on social media, on multiple social medias at the same time, and it was really well received. And there were many more people who joined us, not just Bangalore, but even beyond Bangalore, while our focus has always been Bangalore, but that was an interesting thing, that people even beyond Bangalore saw there was a value in this. These were some of the topics that we worked with. Some of like decoding HR for next gen, if you remember, was the learning program we had in the first HR showcase, the one that we did at the Ashok Hotel. Then, of course, we had storytelling, which was one of our certification programs, and it was very, very well received. The labor laws and employee relations program. Now, this was very interesting. It was again a certification which was targeted at people who are working in the new age industry, like the technology industries, the ITES, banking, etc., and how ER is becoming increasingly important, and what type of ER capabilities and skills do we need. So this was really focused at the requirements in Bangalore and the organizations of Bangalore. Moving on. What you will notice is that we have always had something to offer for all our stakeholders, whether they are seniors who would primarily come in for the CHRO events. We did 3 of them. Even the thought leadership events that we do. Then we had the people in the middle level who were more into functional capabilities building, and we offered all the certification programs there. And then we had the young professionals where we also did the mentoring programs, the speed mentoring and all of that, which was very successful. And finally, of course, with the students, as I mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of work with the students, and that's also been very well received. Just some of our stakeholders and their comments. Thank you. Next slide, Prakriti. A big heartfelt thanks to all of us. These are, of course, our executive committee members. You know them all. Everyone's been really, really working hard behind the scenes to make sure that we are able to offer a wonderful experience and a good set of offerings to all of you, our stakeholders. A big privilege. It was a big privilege for all of us, and I think the big thing about this committee that I can say, and I'm so grateful to everyone here, is the enthusiasm and the willingness to try new things. I don't think there was ever a situation where a good idea was left on the table. Everything that came up as an idea or a suggestion was taken forward, and we did try different things. So that was really, really something. That's the kind of spirit. None of this is possible without our young advisory board, very enthusiastic, very active, very hardworking. Many of them took leadership positions for many of our offerings, built it, even designed programs, project managed it, delivered it. It was really, really amazing to see the kind of involvement that all our young advisory board members had for the last couple of years. So a big thanks to all of you as well. A big, big thank you to everybody, to our executive committee, our national secretariat, our seniors, our past presidents, the board, the national board, all our volunteers, ambassadors, YABs, all of you are members, for taking the time and coming to the programs, for actively giving us your feedback, whether it was through the various surveys that we were running on Slido, or whether it was coming in for our think tank discussion, where you gave us the ideas that we used for the rest of the term. So thank you so much. It was really wonderful and a big privilege for all of us. Do any of you want to add in? I can see the EC here.
Just would want to thank everyone. It's been wonderful. It's been great fun being a part of this EC, and thank everyone in the chapter, all our seniors and everyone for all the support they've given us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say thank you everyone for all the support and love that all of you have given. It had not been the easy 2 years. I think we have seen all multiple ways that we had to continue running. And I think we also got and quickly adapted into new way of working as a team, and also made sure that every program we were running otherwise in a physical format, we continue in the virtual format, and see how we can continue to have our reach even more deeper across. So that's something we as a team try to do. And while we continue to experiment new things, I think all our members gave all the love and support to enable that. So thank you so much for all the support that has been given, and a great team effort by each of the EC members that we got to make these things happen. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. I think if anybody else wants to say something, or shall we move on now? All right. I think next we get on to introducing our new EC.
Can we have the new EC members get on their video, please?
Good evening, everyone.
So good evening.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Ginny, would you like to take a moment to introduce everybody and then perhaps we can take the oath?
Why don't I just introduce myself, and I would like everyone to introduce themselves as well. So I'm Chaitanya, go as Chinny, been with IBM. Now this is my 18th year, multiple roles before that, and actually on the industry side, both in finance and on the other side with IBM on the business side as well. So Smita, I know fantastic work. Want to thank you. There's some really big shoes to fill, and also the entire EC. I think what a fabulous job, and we've been with you last couple of years. So very happy and thank you. I think we have a work cut out for us, and I'm very confident that the team that's here today will see it through for the next two. And continue the journey where you have all started, and we will hope to grow on that. So with that, let me, in no particular order, ask the team to introduce themselves, and I think that'll be the best. So over to you. So
Well, someone has to start.
Anybody can start. So Suresh, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you.
I know we're not
Get
shy.
it done with. So first of all, also deeply want to appreciate the outgoing EC. It's difficult to say outgoing. I have an advantage that Balaji is a part of my office team, so I can reach out at any point in time. Great work. Thank you for that. Honestly, I've been dodging Bala a few years, not this Bala, Ola Bala, if he's online. And Chinny succeeded in pulling me in, but really delighted to be a part of this group where I deeply appreciate the professionals. A quick introduction, my name is Suresh, and I've been in a HR role for the last 7 years, largely operations for 18 years, working for 35 years. For HR, a bit strange, all in one company, Bosch. Apart from that, at home, married, have 3 girls, so generally well taken care of at home too. Glad to be on this team.
Thank you, Suresh. So I'm just going to go on the screen. I think Arun, you're next, showing up next on my screen. So let me just do that. That'll help.
Great. Thank you, Chinny. Hello, all. My name is Arun. I currently work for Schneider Electric. Probably I may be one of the privileged lot to continue with this particular EC team, while I also got an opportunity to work with Smita and like the previous team. So from that particular angle, I feel privileged. And as much I feel privileged, I'm also feeling excited at this juncture to continue working with this new team and also getting an opportunity to contribute in any small form to this particular community of great professionals. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So Savita, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good evening. This is Savita. I work for Wellinger and associated in the academic field since say 20 years now. So look forward to work with Chini's team. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Savita. Shiji, over to you.
Thank you, Chinny. It has been a great pleasure so far. My name is Shiji, and I'm currently working in Mindtree. Been with NHRD for the last 3 to 4 years. Been part of the student volunteering team. Moved to YAB, and now part of EC team. Really excited to do the amazing work with the new EC team, and also would like to thank the EC team that's have just completed their tenure. I think the journey has been amazing, and hopefully we'll take it to another height from here. So looking forward to that learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shiji. And Sandhya?
Hi everyone, great to be here. So I'm currently working with SLR, and I have around 19 years of experience in talent management and HR business partnering. Currently working in the L&D space. I truly know and agree with Chini that these are big shoes to fill in, because I've been volunteering with NHRD for the last 4-5 years, and I really know that the kind of work that is put in and effort that is put in to get the show going is quite a lot. So looking forward to working with all of you, and I wish the outgoing EC all the best once more. I'm sure we'll reach out to them again and again. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandhya. Kirtana, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kirtana and I work with Smita and team, and just like Sandhya said, I'm sure we'll reach out to you for a lot of things, and I've been volunteering with NHRD from 3 years and looking forward to volunteering with NHRD. And Chini, I'm looking forward to learning from you and all the other team members, and continue to engage, contribute, and hopefully inspire, but definitely get inspired.
Thank you, and all of us are. So, Anjana, over to you.
Hi everyone, Anjana here, and thanks Jenny for this opportunity, and thank you everyone, and it's great to meet all of you in one single window. I know Smita and team, and it's been a long association, around 6 years of association that I've had with NHRD so far, and it's been a great going. I think this had to happen someday, and I think finally I am inducted into the EC, and I'm really grateful to all of you for that. Really looking forward to a fantastic innings, just like how our predecessors have done, and really want to take NHRD Bangalore to the next level with all of our contribution. That is one. I work with TCS, and I've been with TCS for more than 22 years. So that's me, and really looking forward to a great stint with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjana. Dr. Nandish.
Yeah, good evening, Chini and Smita and every one of the NHRDians here. I currently work as a professor in Indus Business Academy. It's one of the premier private B school. About myself, I have totally 30 years of experience in teaching, training, consultancy, and also research. I have been a life member of NHRD since 2008, but I took a conscious decision to enter this EC so that I can add a value and contribution, whatever I know. I can only say we can follow the LPG 2021 philosophy, learning, partnership, and growth. It is for self, for EC, and for all the members. So let us work as partners and collaborators and add a value, significant value rather to entire HR fraternity. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. And Smita, we are all excited, lots to do, and we're looking forward. So back to you.
Thank you and welcome everybody. Wish you all the very best. It's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, high energy. So wish you the best. Mitch?
Yes, hi Smita, hello everyone. Before that, I see Bala, Dr. Upande, Dr. Dia Nagraj here. Any thoughts, from you guys before we get into the code of conduct for the new EC?
Good luck to Chini and his team.
Thank you, Bala.
So we normally have this in the regular avatar of coming EC. It resides after this, but in the virtual avatar, we'll try this. So maybe the new EC, if you can unmute yourself, there are some statements, is the code of conduct that we have to go through as we take up this responsibility. I will always strive to meet the highest evolving standards of competence in the profession and add value to organization success.
I will always strive to meet the highest evolving standards of competence in the profession and add value to organization success.
I will deal with all stakeholders with utmost integrity and create an environment of trust and leading to ethical success of my organization.
I will
deal with all stakeholders with utmost integrity and create an environment of trust leading to ethical success of my organization.
I will ensure that I am always reliable and consistent in all my actions by accepting responsibility for my decision and actions, thereby creating credibility.
I will ensure that
I'm always reliable and consistent in
all
all
my
my
actions
actions by accepting responsibility for my decision and actions, thereby creating credibility.
Sorry, for my profession and myself.
For my profession.
And myself.
I will be objective in all my actions and decisions and foster fairness with firmness.
I will be objective in all my actions
and decisions and foster fairness
with my firmness.
I will conduct myself in a way that facilitates growth and development for all those I am responsible for.
I will conduct myself in a way
growth and development I'm responsible
all those I'm responsible for.
I will strive to be a role model for all others and champion exemplary practice for the HR profession.
I will strive to be a role model for all others and champion exemplary practice for the HR profession.
I will respect the rights of privacy, will not use my position for personal gains, and ensure that there is no conflict of interest in what I do with any of my stakeholders.
I will respect
the rights of privacy,
will not use my position for personal gains,
and ensure that
there is no conflict of interest in what I do.
with any of my
stakeholders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's get then started with our monthly meeting. Over to you, Prakriti.
Thank you so much, Smita, and all the very best to the new EC. So continue to continue to fly. Let the NHRD Bangalore continue to fly high. Okay, so now moving on to this monthly meet. The topic is reimagining the future of work. Will it ever be the business as before? So we have a very diverse and a vibrant panelist today amidst us. So let me quickly introduce the panelist for today's monthly meet. So we have Sudhir Banerjee, who's the head of GBS India of ABB. His experience spanning 3 decades, including 9 years in manufacturing in companies like Eicher Mitsubishi, has worked in GE and also has enabled to set up GE BPO, which has now been spun and known as Genpact. Has established at Honeywell business transformation groups, and in the area of commercial excellence has established the gold standard of Honeywell operating system. Person who is more like a heart of having the master Lean Six Sigma, somebody who's really groomed many MBBs and BBs and GBs across in his career. Then we have Mr. Narayan. He is a people practice leader and a certified business coach with a career spanning over 25 years. He has helped organizations and individuals build competence and capabilities leading to business performance. In his role with Axel as venture partner.
Right? Okay, I'm just joining. Okay, I just want to check.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Did I disturb you in anything? Sorry.
Okay, I think, yeah, okay. So let me continue. Okay, so Narayan, being a venture partner at Axel, he actively engaged with his portfolio companies in enabling them with a range of solutions in leadership development, learning, org design, employee engagement. And prior to Axel, he has worked with various companies and also startups like Capillary Technologies, Rambus, AT&T, etc. We have another interesting panelist, Vipin, who comes with around 25 plus years of diverse experience, having worked in diverse industries, whether it's manufacturing or service sector, a very sound exposure of providing HR solutions for different business cycles, whether it's startups or expansions or integrations or mergers and acquisitions, or even if it means close down. He's worked with various companies like Honeywell, IBM, Residio, and then also venture on his own to and be a co-founder for Recruber, and now the managing director at Invoke HR Solution. We have Ranjan, who will be moderating today's panel's discussion, a founder and editor of Human Engineers, which has also been selected as a top 100 HR blogs and also website and influencers in 2020. He's also been selected as one of Dr. Marshall Goldsmith's MG India 25 top coaches. In a career spanning nearly 3 decades, he has been head of HR and held many leadership positions in India and globally in companies like Schneider Electric, APC, Chevron, Caltex, Praxair, etc. He's also been the president of NHRD Bangalore chapter in 2015-2017, and also the honorable secretary of NHRD of Bangalore chapter. So over to you, Ranjan, with this very interesting panel, and look forward to hearing more about what future lies with this lies ahead, and will it ever be business as before?
Thank you, Prakriti. And correction, I was not president; I was vice president. So thank you for the elevation. Thank you for the kind words of introduction and all the kind words that you had for all of us. It's really a privilege to be back on the center stage at NHRD. And first of all, I should welcome Chini and his team, and also congratulate Smita and her team at Bangalore chapter, and Krish and his team at the national level for having weathered the pandemic storm. I know the storm is yet to get over, but still, so far, you've been able to weather the storm, steer the ship through difficult and choppy waters, and ensure that the operations at NHRD chapter continues. Few would have imagined 15 months back that with the onset of this pandemic, we all felt that probably the activities at NHRD chapter would probably come to a halt or will slow down. But thanks to you and your team with your innovative thinking, out-of-box thinking, and leveraging technology, not only did you actively engage all our members. If I remember right, the number of programs and initiatives that you people have rolled out in the last 15 months is much more than what you'd have otherwise physically done. For most of us, NHRD has been a visit to one of the hotels or to chanceries or some of the colleges, meeting people in person, having the social interactions, enjoying the chai and the samosas, and the wonderful get-togethers that we used to have. But few would have imagined that even that's possible on a virtual scenario. And that's precisely what we're going to talk today. The pandemic, of course, was a catastrophe, was a huge calamity. It consumed more than 1 million people's lives world over. It has disrupted business, our society, and every walk of life. It has also given us an opportunity in some ways. It has thrown up new possibilities for people to work, to add value to stakeholders, and at the same time brought in new perspectives on how we view life and work. Many felt that the pandemic would bring in a lot of disruption in industry and bring the economy to a standstill. But reports from McKinsey, Stanford, and others have reported that productivity has actually gone up working remotely. India was threatened with a negative GDP in December of last year, but now every other organizations and institutions are now forecasting that India would have a double-digit growth, and we have rebounded pretty quickly. So what will the future look like? Will the business be as usual, like before, or how will it shape up? Can we reimagine the future of work? How it will look? Will it be ever as before? To discuss this, we have a very interesting panel, 3 stalwarts. Sudhir from the Global Business Services, a business leader supporting ABB. Vipin, an HR turned entrepreneur. And then, of course, we have a seasoned HR professional, Narayan, who will be sharing his perspective from a startup environment. I would first start with Sudhir. Sudhir, you're the business leader responsible for providing global business services to ABB worldwide and spread across different geographies all across the world. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi came on television on the 24th of March and then declared that we are going into a lockdown with almost no notice, if I remember right, he said from the midnight. What was your first reaction at what went through your mind? The question to you, Sudhir, is were you at GBS prepared for it, or was it a rude shock? And did you believe that work could be executed remotely? And more importantly, you trusted your employees without physical supervision? Sudhir, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, no, but before I respond to your question, I must add one more evolution statement for me. This is the same Sudhir Banerjee who used to shiver if during my Aisha days while working in shop floor, if someone says the HR head is calling you. Think of how I have evolved from that time to facing probably 70 plus HR professionals. So I will probably pat on my back that, at least something has happened to me. But coming back to your point, I think most of the organization, and particularly in ABB, we have been practicing what is called as business continuity. But when this whole announcement came and we had to respond to this within next 2 to 3 days time, I would say a few things came naturally to the leadership and to me, what was really important. The topmost was, how do I bring a different experience to employees and to the customer? Being a remote operations, the say-do ratio is your biggest metric, apart from any of the operating metrics, right? So the topmost thing which came to our mind and my mind was, how do I quickly communicate what's happening in India to the rest of the world? Though we were a bit later on the evolution, many other parts of the world was already experiencing, but the topmost thing was, how do I communicate to my employees and how do I communicate to all my global customers? That was the topmost piece. While doing it, the second thing came up is, how do I make sure that the operations continue, the whole resilience piece, right? What does it need to make that happen? And the third thing which came up is that while we do this, we don't know how many days it is going to continue. We thought it will be like probably 20 days or maybe a month. So the first response was, how do I make sure that the whole operations runs? The safety of employees are one of the most important. How do I communicate and make sure there is a two-way communication which has to be established, which also brought a different governance model. So the initial operating model, what we had versus what was expected, it has to be much more agile with hardly any bureaucracy into this whole thing. So I would just sum up. I think it was broadly the whole engagement and communication, both with employees and the stakeholders globally. Second was, how do I make sure the operations resilience is maintained by whichever way it is possible. And third was all about platforms and technology, which came to the mind. Yeah? So broadly, these three, I would say, sum up.
Right, Sudhir. But what about the question about, did you trust that the employees are capable of working remotely and without any supervision?
Yeah, something really happened. Maybe sometimes it was, designed that way that you will be surprised. We have, it's a transactional support team. Huh?
Yeah, it's a BPO like.
It's a BPO. But for last 5 years, we have kept a norm called, if you are late, you can regularize your leaves. And that trust, I would say, the trust factor was something which really enabled the whole thing happen. So I had to go into a virtual town hall with all employees and said, there are only 5 wellness we are going to focus now. Your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, the communication wellness between the seniors and the people managers, and also from people back to the seniors, right? And then the finally is that, we don't know what we are entering into. The whole emotionally, we have to be together. So what really came to rescue in ABB was that we had that mutual trust operating mutual trust already set up. And frankly, we never designed it with pandemic in mind.
Right.
So in the entire organization, even now, there is some concept called leave regularization or attendance regularization, where every person, if he says I was late because I was working at home and then came to office, it's absolutely okay. I think those kind of messages were crystal clear that we had to communicate to the employees. But absolutely, to your point, they responded 300%.
Absolutely. I think if anything which came out of this pandemic, it was the trust factor, and it has further, influenced our way in which we approach the work and approach our employees.
Absolutely. And the other thing, sorry, I might miss it. While communicating, it is absolutely okay to say I'm equally vulnerable. We don't know what we are entering into, but we know what next few days we have to do.
Right.
That's exactly the modus operandi we are handling for last 1.5 years.
Thank you, Sudhir. Vipin, the concept of work from home used to be the privilege of a few, especially the tech and the knowledge-based companies in the past. This is prior to the pandemic. But now it's almost become a norm, right? And in fact, it's also become an employee right. Today, people are reluctant to go back and work in the office, and they think it's an employer right to work from home. It has, of course, ensured business continuity and at the same time, from an employer perspective, given the flexibility to work. The last 15 months has shown us that just about any work and most work can be done away from the office space, from home or from wherever it is. My question to you, Vipin, is, do you think that this has come to stay forever? Or will we see a return to normal working behavior?
So Ramesh, thanks for asking this question, an interesting question. I would put my perspective in this way, that I don't think it's going to be either this or that. Somewhere I think we will get into a striking a balance somewhere, because I will take an example. When you start applying force to something elastic, it stays for a while, returns to the shape. But if the stretch gets too much, it returns, but then it is deformed to some extent. So somewhere I'm saying there is a new balance that will evolve, because the disruption that we saw was a little too much. Can we go back 100% to what it was? Perhaps no. Will it be what it was during disruption? I would say perhaps again that's no, because we worked in extreme situation, perhaps which was not the optimum situation.
Right.
So we will get into an optimum model somewhere. And I will add to that. So not only the IT industry, look at the brick and mortar industry, the continuous process plants on chemical side, even the cement, steel, all those plants. Or if I talk about hospitality industry. Now, during this time, the innovation came in. How do we serve customers? How do we really work with the employees, with say limited set of employees, with the government directions to be able to serve the customers and still produce some output? So there are those shops that have got developed. I would say industry has also tasted blood, that something can be done, and maybe some of those processes have evolved. I would say there is some tailwind, if I put it that way, which is helping it. Technology is helping it. The new environment in which people have operated has helped it. However, there is a little bit of headwind also, which will stop it, and which is the human nature. My need to interact as a person, and I need to socialize. Similarly, leaders need to be having power, and having that kind of maybe sense of maybe having people together at one place. See, there are people who have fought for corner office for decades, right? Can they let go of everything in one day? Perhaps the answer is no. So there will be some optimized behavior that will perhaps come in at some point of time. But the interesting part would be, where does it settle? And we have seen companies evolving across the sectors. My only little bit of worry, where I'm not too confident, would be the small scale industry, which is at a very, very small scale, and which is perhaps where the physical presence or the way they work or feet on street, will there be too much of change? I don't know. Perhaps it may not be, versus maybe certain sectors. So it may vary from sector to sector.
So would this hybrid working arrangement really work in the long run, and do you think it's practical?
I would say yes. And I would also say in hybrid, there are two parts to it. One is, will there be certain areas permanently remote? I would say that permanently remote positions will increase. And I think there are certain surveys which also suggest towards that, that permanently remote, which was almost unheard of in many companies, will also increase. The second part is hybrid. So when we talk about hybrid, which is more of partially coming to office and partially working from home, that model will also change a bit, because if we are getting used to it, perhaps we may get into more smarter offices where there may be lesser number of seats and there may be hubs. So I may say there may be a hub of and somebody can go to nearest hub for working kind of scenario. And so it will stay, it will work in that direction. There will be certain challenges in terms of the practicality, and one of those things would obviously be the productivity part, because that's where I think employees also have to learn to some part, and employees are also adapting, because there are certain one, definitely the IT infrastructure related part. The second is the distractions and others. The second part is from the company side, where there are certain processes still not there. But my sense is, over a period of time, it may again come to a situation, because there are a lot of tools and productivity tools that are getting that are already coming in place, which will support and enable this process. So hybrid working is going to stay. Again, sector wise, it may be a little bit of different, but some of the jobs which were unthinkable to be done remotely, I'm sure those will also now come under the purview of hybrid working.
Absolutely. I think both the employees and the employees have tasted the blood and will be being and taking positions on either side. Thank you, Vipin. So, Narayan, from a startup perspective, the startups have emerged as one of the key drivers of economic growth, right? And are often seen as a catalyst for innovation, or should we say in the Indian context, Jugad, right? But they have also been vulnerable because most of the startups depend on a very small core team of founders, and therefore they are subject to some labor supply shocks, all the more during the pandemics. At a time when there's been some significant economic upheavals and downturns, and revenues being affected because of containment measures and drop in revenue opportunities, the startups become even more financially fragile, right? And they need support for their short-term liquidity financial needs, which is very critical for survival. In general, it's been a survival of the fittest, even otherwise in the startup environment. The question to you, Narayan, is, having seen the startup ecosystem for the last 8 years at Axel, how have Indian startups managed and survived during the pandemic? Has it been a fight for survival, or have they seen it as an opportunity for innovation?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ranjan. I think let me divide this question into three parts. First is Jugaad. In Frugal Innovation, if you've seen in the last 10, 12 years since the time Flipkart came into India, I think there was largely innovation on the consumer side, and in the last few years, we've seen a lot of innovation happening on vertical SaaS side, which means deep tech, AI, ML. As a matter of fact, even in the talent acquisition space, even in the HRIS space, there's a lot of innovation which are coming our way. Now, innovation is a backbone of every startup, which means all that they're there to come solve a problem. If they see a problem, they come and solve a problem. So hence in that context, it's been wonderful, and we have seen some great companies emerging out of India, as good as Freshworks, as good as Swiggy, as good as Zomato. We've all seen that happening from the ecosystem to come in and emerge. Now, keeping that aside, while startups are agile as always, I think one of the important factors is startups have been agile. Like what Sudhir said or Vipin said, every company has to be agile to survive in today's environment. Because what worked in the past, will not work in the future. You'll have to keep reinventing yourself. From the era of Y2K came software. From software, we went into digital. Now, if the companies don't go digital or move to digital to manage the new generation of consumer, customers, and employees, then survival becomes an extremely difficult proposition. So taking the route of digital, startups have emerged as, once again, a powerful tool for large, small, and medium enterprises to create value. To give you even more specific examples, now let's take an example of Swiggy. Swiggy, which started off just delivering food during the pandemic, did go through its own challenges. But if they were not delivering food on time to people, sitting at home, it would have been extremely difficult. So they had to reinvent their wheel, reinvent their agile process of close to about 80 to 85,000 delivery boys and survive. And the same thing holds good for something like Freshworks, which is a SaaS platform, which has a fresh team platform, which is a marketing tool. If they were unable to move to cloud and bring digital to every employee's home as well as their customers, it would have been difficult. So the way I would look at this is, in all the three aspects, startups have emerged much more powerful, and the pandemic has helped startups in creating and being more innovative. While there are certain sectors, let's say the hospitality sector, let's say your apps of which focus on travel, hospitalities, Airbnbs of the world have taken a hit. Other than that, I think there's a humongous amount of innovation which is happening, and businesses as usual for startups.
Narayan, in the context of people, what were some of the measures that the startup community has implemented to ensure that they keep the business and people and the flock together?
Okay, now I can go from company to company. I can give you an example. Early stage companies, went back and started staying in one apartment. That means, they took an apartment and they said, okay, let's all stay here. And they picked up close to 3-4 apartments in a floor, and then said, okay, let's all work from here. And that became the mantra for early stage companies. And a little later stage companies, because startups also in their evolution, we need to understand the number of people vary, and the kind of business model which they work on, the kind of problem which they are solving varies. So technology companies did that. Now, something like a brick and mortar or a distributed model. So what they did was they had their leaders poised in specific geographic location to make sure that they're accessible to people for a quick conversation in the morning or the evening. Let's say a delivery boy needs to be motivated. Now, while he's a consultant, he's an entrepreneur himself, but he needs to be told what needs to be done. His safety needs to be taken care of. So in that context, one, a digital platform was used. The second, a live one-on-one conversation and coaching used to happen to these people, because while they're on the ground, they need to make sure that they were managing safety norms. Now, last but not the least, I think as a startup community, this is where I felt there was some extremely good work done by the venture capital of the startup community. We put together a 600 crore ACT fund, Action COVID Team Fund, which came across from all VCs, founders, every one of them. And we worked because of our logistics and our ability to go back and procure materials from across the world. We've donated oxygen cylinders. We have set up war rooms in the state. We have set up not only in Karnataka. We have set up war rooms in close to about 19 states. And then with our support from Portia and many other partners, we've been able to even manage cylinders. That was one piece, from the physical support side. Now, on the HR side, what we did was we created an ACT talent platform, because in the hospitality business, there were companies, which were letting go people. So what we did was we created an online platform where they could apply for jobs which were available in the other digital platform. Let's say companies who are scaling well using digital as a medium were scaling well, so that the easy transition of people could happen from from the hospitality sector to the other sector on the technology side. So it was. The effect was largely seen in the hospitality, but other than that, on the digital space, I think there's a tremendous growth and opportunity which we're seeing coming from what's happened during the COVID.
Very, very noble of you guys for having created that fund of 600 crores. And I think this talent exchange initiative is a great example, which I think many other organizations should try and emulate, not only in the startup community, but also in the other parts of the business. So let me come to the second round, Sudhir, where we're going to talk a bit about culture. Like millions of people who work from home, so too people and employees of Apple. But recently, Tim Cook sent out an email almost demanding that employees return back to work, right, starting September. He did say that people will have to come to work physically at least 3 days a week, right? Some may be allowed to work remotely for up to 2 days a week, but only with the express permission of the managers. I also know that some Indian companies, even in Bangalore, are now contemplating to bring the employees back to work maybe as early as September or October. But at the same time, Bloomberg, in its research report, basically largely in the US, has said that 40% of the employees who were surveyed, they threaten to quit if they are forced or compelled to come to work. So my question to you, Sudhir, is how, when, and where will you be able to draw a line and delicately balance the expectations of the employee and the employer, especially in the context of remote working or flexible working arrangements? Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so Ranjan, if you really sum up various inputs, what Narayanan or Vipin is talking about, and many of the members on the call, what happened when this pandemic hit? And as I said, none of us were expert in this pandemic. I think what I heard, it is like one time in last 100 years is what this kind of a thing happens, right? So none of us were clear. What I was a little bit amazed is that during that period, few companies or few organizations said we will go 100%, right? And then some of them are coming back with a U-turn and all that. So what we see is roughly around 40 to 45, 50%, and this number may go up and down a little bit, will continue to be in the old conventional method, not because of any other reason, but because of the sector they address, right? They will definitely try to spring back to the old method of working, and that is rightly so. Roughly around 30-35% will adopt the dual mode, where working from home or working from office somewhere in that continuum of 100% office and 100% home will get into a stability. And I will come back to where I see certain factors which is going to drive it. And around 19-20% people or the organization will completely allow work from anywhere. And again, since the HR forum, I see there is a great opportunity of saying that this is my office, which is a 7-floor building, versus it will be a distributed work model where I may have out of 700 people or 500 people, whatever the size of the organization is, X% of the talent pool you will never see physically. You will be doing something virtually. And that's the kind of, I would say roughly guess around 25%, and based on various other colleagues I connect with, that is what the equilibrium will come. But let's understand what is driving that, or what will drive that. I think this whole universe is becoming unit one, which means you as Ranjan, me as Sudhir, Vipin, we all will decide what is good for me. And that is exactly what is going to happen to each of our employees. So that collective, what is called culture, we have to relook what that means to us now. Okay. Many of the companies are seeing a lot of attrition. I don't see it as attrition. When you go and scratch what is the driver of attrition, you will probably see the employee experience is going to be one of the topmost activity. How any of these employees have experienced their own organization when one of their colleague or near one was getting hospitalized, what did that HR head or the operation head or the CEO of the company did when I wanted that help is going to be a big residual factor for them. So let's talk about that as the experience. And we can continue till early morning what that experience means to us, right? That is one. Second, I think with this whole risk being very high on our radar, resilience to operate, what will be the business model where the resilience is taken care of? Will also decide what percentage by design you will never allow them to come to Bangalore or Delhi or one location. Because if that city suddenly gets impacted by COVID, then your whole operation gets into a problem. So which will be the resilience factor where the governance structure, the structure of your organization, the processes you adapt And Vipin talked about many people have gone into those, I would say, remote monitoring or remote, I would say, orientation to new joiners. All that is going to drive. And so once it is there, it will remain with us because people have tasted the benefit out of it, which is the second element, which is the resilience and the whole, I would say the redesign of the organizations and the organization structure and the operations will be that. And roughly,
Sudhir, I just want to ask you, what if an employee refuses to come to work physically? He says, I don't want to come to office, I will work from home. What will happen?
I think that brings a different need now, Ranjan. Sudhir used to go to office and he will have his hurdle by sitting at the head of the table. And 25 people will come and meet him, sitting around him. And whatever Sudhir says will be taken as definitely given, right? Gone those days. So coming back to this, I think that the role of a manager, the role of a leader, the role of an elder, and I'm using the word elder in an organization, will be redefined, already getting redefined. Now, this individual will, on one hand, will have to create experience. Second hand, will be responsible to bring a resilience-driven organization because the need and the ask is going to go up. And the good news is India is definitely being seen, at least I can talk about the arena I am handling, definitely is seen as a location where culturally people respond to a delivery. You'll be surprised, we have got so many quarters of delivery. India, out of the 5 locations, was the first to deliver, even when we were running with wave 2 of pandemic. It's not easy, huh? It's absolutely not easy. I think as HR heads of various organizations and being the people custodian, I think we should be proud of that. But the third element is also very, very important, which is your cost efficiency. Many companies have at least seen 20 to 25% cost reduction because they can let go their real estate. Right? Now, these 3, if someone has tasted by compulsion or by choice or by design or whichever way one can say, they will not let it go. So the demand and supply will always fight to each other, and the employees' demand will definitely go up.
So how have the customers viewed this? How comfortable are customers with employees working from home, especially in a context of service industry like yours?
Beautiful. And I think it's a great point. When I really go back to my last 25, 30 years of time, leave aside my manufacturing days, but GE, Honeywell, and now, huge amount of time I have wasted, I'm using the word wasted, in doing change management to my stakeholders in US or Europe or Asia Pacific, that what will make their work being done remotely, right? I'm sure all of us have done it.
Absolutely.
Thousands of PowerPoints we have made to make what is good for you to bring a work in Gurgaon or Pune or Bangalore or this and that, and a lot of pie charts and graphs we have made. Ranjan, you'll be surprised. I have not made a single PowerPoint to say why it is important to be a distributed workforce, right? And ABB has done a great job in last quarter, if you go back to the records. But many conversation has started which says what it takes to bring a shade of work in India. Why? Because I think the India talent pool has proven beyond a doubt that even if they are staying in a 2-bedroom apartment and wife and husband both working with 2 small kids and grandparents in the same 2-bedroom, they have delivered.
Absolutely.
They have delivered. And I think the role of HR, role of leaders has gone completely different. I think if we are wasting time in doing a controllership, and that's the reason in one of the forum I said the CFOs should become the next CEOs of the organization because they have all the data to support. So the agility has to go fundamentally different now. So I'll probably stop here, but we can again continue till early morning.
Absolutely. So when we can go and pitch for offshoring for the foreign countries, why can't employees pitch for offshoring from their homes, right? So it's immaterial where you deliver or where you work from.
Absolutely. So and I think that's the maturity which leaders have to bring into their assignment.
Absolutely. So Vipin, I just want to ask you, you have worked for a long period of time with Honeywell. and all of us are admirers of culture of companies like Honeywell, the GE way, the IBM way, the Tata way, and I'm sure you are the Honeywell way. But all this was possible because we were able to huddle people together into a campus or a group of campuses, and then used to draw the rules of engagement, policies, procedures, values. But now with people working remotely, the human touch is missing, and interactions are just boiling down to just mostly transactional in a virtual world. The question to you, Vipin, is how do you engage with your employees? How do you bring back the human touch in a virtual scenario? And most importantly, how do you make your employees feel that he still belongs to the organization and part of a cult or an identity? You're on mute.
So, in fact, I will just link it to the last comment that last conversation that you and Sudhir were having, and I just want to take it a little forward. When we were talking about getting work, let's say from US to India or distributed center, I think one of the point that may emerge at some point of time, and why it's linked to engagement, this may also breed in some kind of insecurity. And why I would put it this way: if work can be done in India from US, it can be done from Africa also.
Absolutely.
If work can be done in Delhi, it can be done in Saharanpur. If it can be done in Bangalore, it can be done in Madurai. Now, the thing is, I think before we get into how to engage, let's see what has created a chaos for engagement or challenge for engagement in the current situation. Very soon, we might see more job insecurity settling in people, because suddenly that privilege of working in a metro city and having that skill has gone. That work can be done from anywhere, maybe sometimes at a lesser cost, maybe sometimes people willing to do it from a different place at a lower cost or whatever. The second part is there is a reduction in network. I'm no more part of that chit chat and maybe water cooler discussions or maybe the gossip, and also I know less and less of organization. Then I may also feel there is a lot more perception that may start playing. I know there is a performance management system, there is a career growth system and all, but still, because my interactions are limited to transition level to a great extent. So all these things will keep on adding it more and more challenge for engagement even earlier with this kind of area. Now, I think one couple of key, and I will not talk about a very lot of things, but maybe 2 or 3 key areas that I think could be very helpful. One is that onboarding is going to be very, very important for us. While the employees who are tenured, they still understand the organization, but what happens to a lot of new population that is coming in the system, how do we really onboard? We need a much longer onboarding process for them. And I'm personally a fan of group onboarding, and not only administratively. And I can just say an example. Let's say I joined Honeywell 2005. Even today, even a couple of days back, I met a person maybe 5 years later, after a gap of 5 years. The person said, "You remember we joined on the same day." The people still remember because they went through those 3 days together in that induction program. The group onboarding almost forms something like an empty batch, even at senior levels or maybe middle level. So I think there is a lot of that camaraderie that kind of builds in. So onboarding is a very big part. The second part is we need to have some kind of creative ways of engagement, and technology can help. The channels like Slack and certain kind of virtual water coolers kind of thing, because today we switch on the camera, we know people what they do, we don't know who you are, and that's a very, very big change that's happening. I know, let's say hypothetically, I know Ramesh, what Ramesh does, I don't know who Ramesh is.
Right.
And that's a very big difference in terms of the engagement. So that's the second thing that is important. Some bit of mentoring program and buddy program that may be helpful. And one very important thing is, we in last 1.5 years, we have criticized managers, we have also maybe celebrated managers, appreciated managers, but we have not trained them enough. We have suddenly loaded managers a lot of things. They should know how to handle virtual team, they should know how to motivate virtual team, they should know how to engage them, they should know how to get productivity out of them. But we forget they themselves are employees, they themselves are going through the similar challenges of job insecurity, challenges of whether they will be able to deliver or not, what will happen to maybe their own performance. They are also suffering the similar things at their home. I think there is a very big gap somewhere. And personally, I feel, again, I may be wrong, but personally, I feel there is a very big gap where we have to really get the managers come up the curve, because that's how the engagement will start. And my personal belief is managers can play a very big role in engagement. It's not HR doing those Friday events, because I know we have tried everything. And again, no offense to anybody. We tried in whatever form. We tried sometimes, okay, let's create some kind of maybe a chit chat session on Friday or something else on Thursday. It went off well. We got good feedback, but maybe 2 months down the line, it started losing its sheen. People thought it's another activity on the calendar. Should we join it or not? I think we have to equip managers to handle that. And that's my personal belief. And I think we need to do that. And we need to now seriously think of how to equip them with those new skills.
So, Vipin, will culture be threatened, or do you see a new dimension which will emerge?
I think.
Will you ever have an IBM way or a Honeywell way, or it's going to be diluted version of it?
I think there will still be that way, because different companies are still responding in a different way. Um, but some of the cultural elements may change a little bit, because some of the fundamentals may have gone, even for some companies, the way fundamentals, what strongly they believed in certain things, they may be a little bit more flexible, or they may want to do a little bit of change. I think that may happen. But there are 2-3 things which are extremely important in this situation to keep that way of culture. So let's say if you are talking about IBM way, or maybe GE way, or any way that we want, let's say any company's way. One, we need to be able to now over communicate our mission and goals with our people, because we don't have so many forums where people can sense it, or people cannot feel it. So there is one part which is missing, is the feeling part of the culture. So that's the part we need to somehow make sure by this communication. The second part, which is very important, is in the current context, is the work policy. Work policy needs a clear communication, because the understanding of remote working or hybrid working varies from person to person. So while employee understands in a certain way, that's remote working for me means I have to do this job, that's it. However, the organization may say, no, remote working for you means 9 to 6, you have to be on Skype or something so that somebody can contact you. So the definition of what is that work policy, how will it change, is also important. The one very key thing, and which defines a culture, and personally I feel very strongly about which defines a culture, is rituals.
Right,
What are our rituals? Even if you talk about religion side or other side, rituals are very important. So those rituals, are we able to establish some of those rituals, or translate them into maybe a slightly different form of rituals? But if we lose some of those rituals, I think then the culture will start getting damaged, because these are the symbols of culture.
Absolutely.
Rituals on their own may not mean a lot, but these are the symbols. So when you talk about, even in school, when I do a passing out party from 11th to 12th standard, it's a ritual, but it has its own importance. It's not that things will, sky will fall if that doesn't happen, but there is a ritual very important to the culture of that particular school or college. So similarly for the corporate rituals, I'm personally a big fan of rituals, and it will be very interesting to see how that is translated and how well is it used to really carry on that flag of culture in this context.
Absolutely. Just like we saw the ritual of, the swearing in ceremony of the new EC committee, right? Which was normally done in a physical space, but now because of the pandemic, even virtually we were able to do the swearing in ceremony and continue the rituals of NHRD.
Ranjan,
Yeah.
I can't hold myself to your question on culture. Huh? Maybe what will happen is your office will become the offsite. And your home anyway is your office, right?
Absolutely.
And I think the ask will be like when we used to do offsite, we used to do a lot of pre-work, right? Who will be the facilitator, how they will come, what kind of bottle will be given, what kind of t-shirts will be given to create an experience, right? And I think what I see is that the culture is nothing but a sum total of various stories you create in your organization.
Right. And the rituals and the
yeah. So when you come across your some ex-employee who stands behind you in your check-in counter, or he says, "Oh, Sudhir, that time we did," all about stories, right? So what kind of stories are these organizations going to create? The sum total of that stories will be the culture of that group.
Right. Very
and
interesting.
The best part, yeah, and the best part is hopefully the whole demand from the employees is going to evolve. Today, sometimes those demands are a bit irrational, right? Can you get me a table or a chair is the demand going on. But very soon the demand is going to be where you will probably see the organizations will get rated on culture.
Right.
Without HR being asking for that. So I think we have to be ready for that period when on social media, on subgroups or WhatsApp or whatever that be, there will be a new definition of those stories which employees will going to talk about.
Right.
So somewhere that will become the new. So your office will become the offsite now.
Great. Office will become the offsite. That's very interesting, and I'm sure, right? Because the number of times you're going to visit your office is going to be very rare. So Narayan, right. So Narayan, in a report that Forbes carried out, they claim that most startups don't employ HR professionals in its early stages and looks to hire only when it reaches a certain size or when they are nearing some valuation, right? Or eyeing for an valuation. For most part in startups, I may be wrong, HR is viewed more as a recruiter, as a payroll guy in charge of compliance. In most cases, the founders dons the hat of an HR leader. You have been associated with Axel. You have identified, funded, and nurtured some famous companies in India like Flipkart, Swiggy, Urban Clap, Book My Show, Portio, and others. My question to you is, how have you seen the rise of HR in startups, and how has HR been able to influence and shape building these companies? I know it's too short a time, but whatever time you can quickly.
Okay. Now, keeping time in mind, let me be more specific. See, when the founder starts a company, all his interest is going to be product in the order of product, profit, and people, which means early stage founder. He needs to get his product market fit right. And if he shows a couple of customers, then probably he will be able to raise funds and his valuation is going to be will increase. The last of the priority is people. In the yardstick of the founder's mind. Now, what happens is, early stage, Series A, Series B, these are all strategic milestones for any startup. Series A is a fundraise event. Series B is also a fundraising event. If you go back and see a company raised Series A, B, C, D, E, these are all milestones based on how the company is performing. And early stage companies, they don't hire and recommend, or rather, we don't recommend anyone to hire in early stages because it's a founder's company. And founders need to institutionalize their own beliefs, habits, and rituals, like you all said, right? And many a times, and we've had some very interesting cases and scenarios where HR practitioners come in and focus more on the process side of it, but not on the enabling side of it.
Absolutely.
So early stage founders have the stigma saying, if I hire an HR person, will he be on the process side or will he be on the enabler side? So hence, as a matter of fact, I know I'm going to get thrown out from this group. I personally don't recommend to hire an HR person in an early stage. It's largely because founder needs to understand how to deal with people, how to manage conflicts, and how to scale and grow. While processes are important. Now, that happens in the early stage. At Series C is where there are managers of managers. The companies have actually grown from, let's say, 100 to about 500 people. The founder does not have the flexibility to go back and deal with things, right? As we speak, I'm in the process of writing a book on how to scale from product, profit, and people to people, product, and profit, in an HR context in startups. Hopefully that book is going to be soon out. Now at Series D is where we recommend them to hire a seasoned HR practitioner, because that is where the entire product, profit, and people need to flip to people, product, and profit.
That is breaking news, Narayan. If it was Arnab Goswami shows to have been a breaking news saying that Narayan doesn't recommend HR for early stage startups, right?
I'll give you multiple examples. The reason being is, see, a 22, 23-year-old founder who's just out of college, right? Now, as a founder coach, when I go back and tell them, they're extremely good in solving a problem related to a technology, related to intellect, but they're extremely low in managing emotions, people. Some are extremely savvy, right? Now, how do you help them develop these capabilities? Now, in a transition from a founder to a leader, these are some of the very essential. Now, an early stage founder will be extremely good in storytelling and problem solving. Automatically, when he becomes Series D, which is an important strategic milestone, he needs to have a vision, he needs to be empathetic, he needs to have the ability to communicate well. Now, it's a playground to learn and grow. Now, I'm not undermining the HR practice. All I'm saying is, if the founder really does not understand the value of him transitioning to be a leader by understanding people, then it will be very difficult for him. That is the intent, and why I said, don't recommend, and we let founders, make those initial calls on how to build, what to build, and what not to build.
Absolutely. Very interesting, Narayan. Thank you. So we come to our last round where we're going to wrap it up. I'm just going to ask each one of you all, I'll give you 2 minutes to share with us. How do you reimagine the future of work? Do you think it will be business as ever before? So from an organization perspective, what are the things that organizations need to look at? And from an employee perspective, what are they need to adapt in order to help them, shape up for the future? So will it be business as ever before? So maybe we'll start with Sudhir. A quick wrap up.
Yeah, maybe I will just summarize what I already shared. I think one topmost action will be, how do I really relook my leadership and the people managers? That definitely needs reskilling. HR is going to be much more distributed because there is no one HR BP who's on a floor or those kind of things, right? So all your people connect moment of truth creators will have to be trained. That is one topmost. Second, which is very important, is a lot of non-value added we spend time when we used to be in office have been reduced, but we have to still work to take that out so that we don't load our people managers into all those rituals or, like data management, data cleaning, data, all that, right? That has to be done, automated, and then handle it. Your reviews need to be much more, I would say, platform-driven review rather than, I would say, meeting-driven review. Right? It should be driven where acceptance can be handled rather than sitting for 2 hours to ask the same questions every month. Right? So that's the second one. And the third will be, which will be constant, looks to be some young HR folks.
Can you put on the mute, please?
It's okay. It's okay. And then the third thing will be all about the whole efficiency planning, which means how the purpose is well articulated by the leadership, how the performance management is done, how the outcome based review is done, rather than saying, are you there for 8 hours or 10 hours, right? I think those kind of things should be taken out. And I think the whole piece is we have to really adjust. So we have to be quite open rather than saying this is how the ABB used to work or G used to work, or somewhere there's a new definition which is going to come, and we have to be a little bit sensitive and open for adapting that.
Great, Sudhir. Thank you so much. I think a new way of work is going to be the new norm going forward. Vipin, what's your take on how do you reimagine the future?
Yeah, so maybe just 1 or 2 points again, and I don't know whether it will happen or not. One thing definitely I think of is that the performance management goes for a big change because many companies have to move towards an output based kind of evaluation and more continuous kind of thing, but that's more HR. But if I talk about structurally, somehow I think there could be a new position under CXO, which would be VP or Chief Remote Workforce Manager or something like that, which has to take care of a big. See, let's look at it this way. There are many organizations which have vendor management kind of position, senior level, or customer service, or business excellence, or customer excellence, or partners, or suppliers. Could there be a possibility of something like this, workforce management and remote workforce, which includes everything? It's not only HR. It includes HR, it includes the facilities, it includes the IT infrastructure, it includes the entire thing. If this is going to be a big work, could there be something like that? I don't know. But I am assuming this portion is going to get a very big significance if this is something that we are moving into. The second thing on the organization side is more on the cyber security. If things are moving in that direction, cybersecurity is going to be a very big thing because with the kind of maybe multiple people working from different places, some of them working even from maybe hill stations or Goa or from hotels, we don't know. When it is remote, right? Or maybe so how do we really work on that kind of scenario? And when I look at what are the implications for employees in that context, somehow I feel, and I may be a little conservative, there may be more monitoring tools coming in soon. And let me give an example. We have bad roads and we have low speed. We make good roads, we increase the speed, and then we put traffic lights because we cannot have so much speed. It causes accidents. Then we put traffic lights. Then we put cops on top of the traffic lights to make sure that the people don't escape it. When there are too many traffic lights, we build a flyover again to increase the speed. And then we put electronic cameras to make sure that there is a like e-challan. Now, the point I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of onus that will come on the employees. It's only 5 or 10% people who cause that traffic accidents, but others have to follow the system. Similarly, there are chances that people will misuse and abuse system. I'm not talking about all, very few people, but organizations may get wary of it quickly, and some of those monitoring tools may come in. I am assuming, and I may be more conservative, but I am assuming that could be one of the part of the future, and that's where onus on employees have to will be a big one. The second thing people will also be more, I would say, be aware of, or maybe more, I would say, get accustomed to, is that it is not, if everything is changing, they cannot also expect that maybe their own salaries and the growth and things may not get impacted. If as an organization I can get the work done, and let's say if there is IT work, and there is a coder, if he can do the work at its location, which is tier 3 city, and I get used to it, then why not? And then people will also have to, again, it's a give and take. If I'm getting flexibility, there is also some bit of maybe give and take. So the people, while on one hand there is a huge opportunity and the doors that is opening up, but also on the other hand, it might be creating some bit of more onus on employees to be able to deliver in a self-disciplined and low supervision mode. So that's how for the employees, this is also something that's going to happen much more sharper and with much more impact, and pretty soon, perhaps.
Yeah, thank you, Vipin. Now let's wrap it up with Narayan quickly. What is your take on how the future is going to unfold?
I think from let me divide it into three parts. First is, as leaders, we should all start becoming more. We need to have a lot of knowledge on behavioral science and psychology. While extremely good that we might be good in tech or numbers, if you have to deal with people, psychology and behavioral science becomes a very important part, because in a remote workforce you need to start sensing through words, through actions, through tone. So that is where I'll begin with. And then most purpose-driven organizations would do well. Like what Sudhir said, purpose-driven. If you are very clearly articulate of your purpose, yes. And information is a king. How well do you design your organization that information flows to the last person in the group, so that he or she can help innovate. Now, because innovation is restrictive, because we're not debating, we're not having corridor conversation, coffee conversations on innovation, how to solve a specific problem. So information takes a very high road, and then that information needs to be offered to every employee in a seamless manner. And last but not the least, manager as a coach. If you don't have manager who's a coach, because the whole world is a playground for people to look for jobs, and specifically in the knowledge industry, and more the other industries are following the way. And if the manager is not a coach to enable the employee success, attrition in those companies will be high.
Great, Narayan. All the more, as you said, right, the managers now is the only contact point for an employee and the gateway to see what the organization is all about. At least before, he had an opportunity to interact with colleagues virtually and physically see the office, but now he's only interacting with the manager and he views his organization only through the manager, right? So Prakriti, how do you want to do it? Do I wrap it up and then you ask for questions, or you want to ask throw it up for some Q&A and then I wrap it up?
Yeah, just at the interest of time, maybe I'll pick up one or two questions which have come by. There have been enough comments also that has come in, which is more like sharing of thoughts, but I'll pick up one or two questions that has come by. So one of the important questions which Srinidhi really brought up, and that all of us also experience at the corporate world, is we are social beings. Work from home has a negative impact on many individuals, leading to stress, loneliness, and even depression. So what is the way out? So anybody would like to pick up this question?
I can take it up, and I'm just sharing what at least I am doing or some of my colleagues are doing. One is uh, try to be more on video, so that at least the person is not talking to a black hole. That's one. So that at least there is some face recognition, because every company, and at least here we have had quite a good number of people new, right? And they don't know who this individual is talking about. So I think that's one. Second, I think we have to accept that while the conversation is happening, your kid may start talking, or your kid may come and sit on your lap, or you may have your pet which is also coming and barking. I think that acceptance has to be given, because we have encroached the home and moved out of office. So I think that respect has to be there, that there is an ecosystem on which your employee is working. But obviously, you have to teach them that please put on mute, or at least have a corner if there is a global call. But if it is one-on-one call, you are just putting a team call unstructured without time, don't expect that person to be in best of the best mood, right? And I think in this environment, that's one of the most important thing to get. And I'm sure very soon you will have leaders who will get tagged with a rating. So people will no more think of a name of an organization. They will actually kaam kiske saath karoge? Who is that guy on the other side? So somewhere that index is going to come very high on our role, and I hope it is coming. Though it was
It's
still
already
there.
there. So there is called Glassdoor. One
Yeah,
of the metrics
exactly.
which
Yeah. So, but I think we have to be a little bit mindful that there is a new environment in which your employee is working. There are people who are having back pain because of the ergonomics, but still they have to deliver because there is a time dimension to it, right? But at least can you take a pause and call that individual girl or female or boy, whatever, what's happening with you? I think that one call, even if it is once in 5 days, is good enough. And I think what we did was really, somehow I felt very good about the HR practices. We listed down all those people who were absolutely alone staying in Bangalore, because all of us fled and stayed with our near ones or family, right? There were some 37 kids who had moved in. They all came in, they were all in PGs, and not only PGs, not in a group PG, they were all alone staying in different rooms. So that we had to call out all the names of those such people, connect with them, get them into a common area, or allow them to go home. Now these actions are very important. I think less of PowerPoint, more of action will be the need of next generation. And I think what is important, I think Narayanan definitely talked about it. It's very, very important. Many of us have done a great job, chasing numbers. But this is the time when, as leaders, we have to really spend time with the employees, and lot of models are going to come. Lot of new models are going to come. Real estate push is going to happen, then they will again push employees to come back to big cities, whereas actually they should evolve and go to, in Honeywell we opened Madurai, and for a good number of months we were not getting people to go to Madurai, except the people who were actually from Madurai. But now I'm hearing that some of those cities have actually become beautiful places because people can relax. Even the pandemic has not reached the level in which it has reached some of the metros. But let's convert that into an opportunity. For that, the leaders have to be in a different mode now.
Yeah, thanks, Sudhir. Prakriti?
Yeah, so another question which is there, how, especially for new joinees, which also Vipin touched upon, how do we inculcate the organization culture in new joinees remotely?
storytelling.
Yeah, maybe I think to some extent we have already perhaps talked about it, but I think what is important is a good communication and much more extended kind of onboarding with some bit of rituals. And I would say the buddy or mentoring program could be very helpful. So buddy program typically helps in such a scenario, because if I'm new to organization, and especially if I've joined also virtually, and I just know a couple of people in my departments. I don't know whom to even approach. So giving a buddy could be one of the good practices. I know companies have been doing it even otherwise, but at this time, that could be a very, very good alternative where somebody has a go-to person in the organization for asking anything without being judged or evaluated on.
Right. Thank you.
Okay,
and
great.
Prakriti, one more very important practices is your reward recognition programs. Think of a town hall when you used to reward person will come through the crowd and you are putting the citation and then 5 people are hugging them or giving them 3 bumps. Those are gone. So how do you take these examples, stories, and share that with your new joiners that this individual got it because he performed with a different behavior? And I think those are the roles of managers. I'm not saying only HRs, but that whole conversion of what are those top 20 best performers of the quarter, they should be given responsibility to take subsequent discussion with the new joiners because they have the credibility, they have performed, they have got it. So we should not miss these opportunities.
Yeah,
so this add to that, when one of our companies, the founder went to the employees' home, spoke about their well-being, met their families, and then spent time with them, following all the COVID norms. Now that created a lot of buzz across the whole organization to perform more. While they were not coming to the company went to them, which means the founders went to their company. And this is how I believe the next generation of leaders should be performing, is because while they are the ones who are doing all the heavy lifting, and the leader should enable and facilitate them, and that's beautiful of one of our companies in over there.
We'll have to take HR to the employee's home.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think
a lot
it's
of
a fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So
No,
that's a very interesting last question I pick up, Sudhir.
To handle VUCA world, we need Vella leaders. So VUCA world can be handled only when the leaders are Vella. They have nothing but to handle people.
Right.
Okay, the last question before we conclude. So it's a very interesting question. Is about what about 4-day week work in future? Finland has started, so something. Your thoughts?
Why 4 days? Why 4 days? Can be 1 day a week from office, 4 days at home.
I think I will just share something here. I think part-time, whether it is 4 days or half a day work and all, because the logistics support will go down or logistics requirement will go down. So if I'm working remote, perhaps there are chances of getting even half day work. So there are people who may say I am available only for half day because I have to take care of home for half day or things like that. Those things could be possibility. Even if you will look at otherwise, the gig worker, the entire gig working, it's so much there. The entire freelancing world, it's thriving. It's going so big in the entire scenario. It's time when gig working will be part of all our big organizations also. If you really look at the new labor code, that also recognizes gig workers. So look at it. Government of India is recognizing that gig working economy is coming in and has already incorporated that part in the new labor code. That means this is something that even government recognizes that it is going to be future, and the law is coming even before that has gone in a big scale. Most of the times we say the laws come very late by the time things get into scenario, but here there is something which is very proactively already getting defined there. So 3 days work, 4 days work, half day work, weekends work, I think that flexibility will come in the moment we are switching from to a completely output based work. I'm sure all these possibilities exist, and people would be willing to look at that kind of maybe environment, and also people will be more willing to even look at those kind of maybe salary structures. And why I'm commenting on that, because now people can pursue multiple things. If I have my passion, I have my hobbies, perhaps I want to work half a day. If I have to work from a hill station, perhaps I am okay to really work half a day or 3 days a week with that kind of salary. Earlier I had no option. Either I was full time or I was unemployed. Perhaps this is the way the opportunities get opened up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Vipin. And over to you, Ranjan, for the overall closure.
So my take here is that the world is clearly going to be different from what it was in the past, right? Darwin suggested that it's going to be the survival of the fittest, and I think it's all the more true now. Only organizations and employees who are adaptable to change are the ones who are going to survive. But at the same time, let's remember that human beings are a social animal, right? And hence the socialization part of life, which went missing in the last 15 months due to the pandemic, is going to make an appearance in a big way sooner or later, right? Employees are missing their coffee chats, their elaborate luncheon buffets, luncheon interactions, bus rides, right? Office parties. Thank God it's Friday. Your gossips and the fun at workplace. Your thank God it's Friday, your birthday parties, and a whole lot of things. Plus, many are missing the comforts of the office. Most of the offices are great place to work. The comforts of the office, the ambience of the office, and even the workstations when compared to their environment at home. But however hard we may try, using technology to replicate and build a virtual office, it can never replicate the social physical workspace. Yes, there will be some resistance when employees ask people to come back, but sooner or later, most employees want to come back and work in a physical environment. But what needs to change, and I believe it will change, is that the regimental rules that dictates the office timings, the days of work, how you work, where you work, and how you deliver is what is going to change. Employees are asking and seeking for autonomy, right? And the freedom to choose where they work, when they work, and how they deliver, and not exactly from the confines of the office space, right? What has happened is the pandemic has affirmed that most employees are dependable and trustworthy, right? You don't need a physical supervisor breathing down the neck and visually supervising people in a confined office workspace. People can still deliver and be productive, or even better working remotely without any supervision. The trust factor has actually increased immensely over the last period of 15 months. So organizations and employees will be well advised to adopt what I call a flexible working arrangement. We are in a honeymoon period, but I'm sure further experimentation is going to take place over the next 3 to 4 quarters, and things will settle down. But of course, depending on how the pandemic is going to shape up, whether there's going to be a third round or whatever may it be, and then also depending on the type of business, as Narayan said, and others have said that, depending on the nature of work that you are, the future is going to unfold. You can't have a broad brush which you can paint across organization and say, this is it, it's going to be. The future will never be as ever before. But one thing I can tell you is that it will be more exciting than ever before. So thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Vipin. Thank you, Narayan, for some insightful discussions, sharing your experiences. And thank you, NHRD, for giving us an opportunity to share our little bit in trying to understand what is going to unfold before us in the days to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranjan, for summing up so well. So thank you, Sudhir, Vipin, and Narayan on behalf of NHRD for really sharing your insights, experiences, and real life stories. And also, I see the pouring in messages coming in on the chat window where people really, really enjoyed the entire conversation that has happened last 1.5 hours. Thanks, Ranjan, for moderating it so well. And there are also people who are asking for where can I get the recording. So that's something which will make it available on the YouTube, and it will also be posted once the session is done. So thank you for all for staying this long for this session with all of us, and encouraging as always. So thank you, each of you, and signing off now. Have a great day.
Thank you.